when we're talking about the greatest of a generation, we have to judge the whole career, not just the bars, not just the albums, not just the aesthetic, not just the underground respect, the whole thing,
But what if it's only about music?
right? This is why I don't call Shane a failure because
Mm,
there were genuine.
he's not a failure, bro. He knows why he moves like this.
I think South African hip hop can move on without Shane.
Don't forget his inputs, everything he's done. You know,
Uzi owns his generation. Kill Brady owns his generation. I don't think Shane Eagle does.
keep ready. Nah, bro. Nah. Nah.
Welcome.
Quick ad break. Welcome to the channel. If you're enjoying the content, subscribe, hit the notification bell and like the video. Drop a comment with your thoughts on what you'd like to see next, and don't forget to follow me on my socials. I really appreciate the support. Now let's get back to the video.
This one. Brando again. RSA. I watched that video yesterday. It was too long. 30 minutes, bro. That was too long. But let's watch this one. The title, Shane Eagle was never the one.
Was Shane Eagle ever really built to be the guy in South African hip hop? Not one of the guys, not one of the respected lyricists, not one of the underground favorites. I'm talking about the guy. The rapper who becomes unavoidable, the rapper who dominates radio, streaming, awards, pop culture conversations, collaborations, headlines, and the imagination of general South African, public. And when you put Shane Eagle next to names like Nasty C, MT, and A Reese, I think the answer becomes very clear. Shane Eagle was never built for that particular role. And that doesn't mean Shane Eagle failed. It means
I think because they've been like in that space, it's okay. Now we see them every day, but we hardly see Shane Eagle. He only comes when there's something in his life. Maybe there's something he wants to share about his life. I think that's the only time we get to see Shane Eagle. But with the other guys, we always see them that they always share music despite not having something like that's about their life, you know.
we may have misunderstood what Shane Eagle was supposed to become because his career tells a very, very interesting story, right? In 2015, he finished third on Vuzu's The Hustle. He wasn't the winner, but he eventually became one of the show's most recognizable artists, and then came Yellow in 2017, an album that was so different from what was dominating South African hip hop at the time that it eventually won Best Hip Hop Album at the 2018 South African Music Awards.
Exit.
He toured. He built Eagle Entertainment. He remained independent. He toured with Bass. He got international attention. He released project after project after project. He even got a gold certification for Let It Flow and his Never Grow Up EP from Risa in 2019. So, no, this is not a video saying Shane Eagle is irrelevant. This is a video asking a much more specific question, right? Why, despite all the talent, was Shane Eagle never likely to become the dominant mainstream face of his generation? And I think there are several answers, right? Number one, Shane Eagle was always more interested in being an artist than a star, right? This is probably the biggest one. Shane Eagle never
Just sharing you like your thoughts and expressing yourself. There's a difference between being an artist and like being a major artist and just being there because you want to share your thoughts. I don't think Shane Eagle is taking music as his career.
never really moved like someone whose primary objective was to become the biggest rapper in South Africa. From the beginning, he positioned himself.
Okay, maybe he took it as his career, but I don't think he wanted to be in that thing. It was okay. He wants to be the biggest or the best.
Differently. In 2017, um, around the Yellow Times, right, Shane Eagle explicitly rejected the idea of being the J. Cole of South Africa, saying he was the Shane Eagle of the world, right? That statement tells you almost everything about his mentality. He wasn't interested in fitting into existing South African rap hierarchy, right? He wanted to create his own world, and artistically, he backed that up. Yellow wasn't designed like a conventional commercial rap album. There wasn't a huge mainstream single driving the entire project. The production was largely boom bap and minimalist, right? Rather than the trap heavy sound dominating that era at the time, right? So the album was deeply personal, touching on religion, family, his father's struggles, fear, childhood, and his own worldview, which is very admirable and very mature. But there's a difference between being artistically distinct and being commercially dominant, right?
Mm,
South African hip hop has historically rewarded rappers who could, cross that bridge, aka could rap but also make records that everybody knew.
mm,
Casper Nyovest could rap but also build, stadium moments. MT could rap but Roll Up became a national phenomenon. Nasty C could rap but also consistently make records that worked outside of traditional hip hop audiences. Shane's instinct was different, right? He kept moving deeper into his own artistic universe, and that created a very strong identity among his core fans. But it also created a ceiling because the more specific your world becomes, the harder it becomes to make yourself unavoidable to everyone else, right?
mm,
Now, my second point, this is where people sometimes misunderstand what makes an artist a superstar, right? Being lyrical isn't enough. Being different isn't enough. Having a classic album isn't enough. You need records, you need moments, you need timing, you need consistency. And most importantly, you need the ability to repeatedly turn your artistry into something the general public
Okay, I think I can take that 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 opinion. I can take it.
can, consume. The third point for me is that Shane's biggest strength is his artistry. Sometimes it can also be his biggest weakness, right?
Mm,
Here's where I'm going to challenge Shane Eagle's artistic philosophy. One of the strongest things about Shane Eagle is that he refuses to sound like everyone else. But sometimes listening to his catalog, I feel he's so committed to avoiding everyone else's lane that it keeps changing his own lane. Think about the evolution. Yellow
mm,
sounds different to Never Grow Up. Never Grow Up sounds different to Dark Moon Flower. Zen Energy, the final saga, sounds different. Green, Akira, Never Meet Your Heroes.
Akira. Oh, they sound different, bro. But there's that one thing that links, and tells you it's okay, this is Shane Eagle. I think everything about his life, his spiritual life, all those things, I think that's where okay, maybe you can find the link, not because of themes, but the way he sounds, you know?
These all sound different, right? These aren't simply albums. They're different chapters of a very complicated artistic universe, right? So I should say. Shane himself has spoken about his projects through colors, concepts, spirituality, personal experiences, and different creative eras. So, my next point is that his sound has always been distinct, but not always accessible, right? This is another uncomfortable point. Shane has often, spoken about his sound as universal. In 2018, he said he didn't believe his music was American, describing it instead as universal because it represented his truth. And I understand the arguments, but there is a big difference between universal intention and universal accessibility, right? Sometimes Shane's music feels like it was created for the artist first and the audience second. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Frank Ocean does that, El Sweatshirt does that, Tyler the
Mm,
Creator has done that. Those artists developed extremely, clear words, right? Shane has experimented so much that sometimes the listener is left trying to keep up with the artist rather than the artist making it easy for the listener to follow. And
mm.
in mainstream music, accessibility matters, not simplicity, accessibility. There's a difference, right? My next point, the inconsistency is really hurting him. Now, we get to the biggest practical problem consistency. With anything that you do in life, consistency.
Exactly. With consistency, I don't think he has been okay. I don't know. Okay, let's check his maybe it doesn't need to be you dropping every month or maybe dropping every 5 months, you know. But I think he has got enough music, bro, enough albums. I think his discography looks good, you know. Let's look at his albums. Never Meet Your Heroes. Okay, let's start here. Never Grow Up. Never Meet You. Okay, Dark Moonflower, Green, Akira. Never Meet Your Heroes. These are like 5 albums. And this one dropped in 2018, 2019. He stopped 2022, 2023, 2020. The consistency is not really that higher, you know, like it's huge, but sing these albums, bro. He has enough albums. I don't think Aries has this number of albums, bro. He's got Paradise. He's got, okay, I can add Triple TM in this one. On this one, maybe Paradise 1, Paradise 2, and how many? Maybe I can say 4 albums and other EPs, Hey, bro, consistency. I don't think the
will always be a big factor. Shane actually had a strong run early in his career. I mean, Yellow 2017, Never Grow Up 2018, Dark Moonflower 2019,
mm,
Zen Energy 2020. His 2020 interview with OK Africa noted that he had released a project every year since Yellow. That's momentum. Why did you stop on that? But then the gaps become more noticeable.
okay, the gaps become more noticeable. I that's true. But we have to think about the person, the artist, the rapper. We have to think about the rapper and everything that he put. With Chain Eagle, it has always been about his life and putting such, because okay, for necessity, I think it takes 2 years for him to drop an album. I don't expect him to just boom, drop albums every, because dropping an album, bro, takes time, bro. It really does take time, and it has to be substantial at some point, you know. But
Different, right? He kept moving deeper into his own artistic universe, and that created a very strong identity among his core fans. But it also created a ceiling because the more specific your world becomes, the harder it becomes to make yourself unavoidable to everyone else, right?
mm,
Now, my second point, this is where people sometimes misunderstand what makes an artist a superstar, right? Being lyrical isn't enough. Being different isn't enough. Having a classic album isn't enough. You need records, you need moments, you need timing, you need
oh,
consistency. And most
a bit
importantly, you
worse,
need
please.
the. Here's where I'm going to challenge artist first and the audience. Sometimes the listener is left trying to keep up with simplicity, accessibility. Now we get to the Energy 2020. His 2020 interview with OK Africa noted that he had released a project every year since Yellow. That's momentum. Why did you stop on that? But then the gaps become more noticeable. Green arrived in 2022, Akira 2023, Never Meet Your Heroes in 2025, and they all just came and left. Now, 2 years between albums isn't automatically bad, right? Plenty of great artists take their time, but
Mm,
Shane's problem was that he wasn't operating from the position of an artist who could disappear for 2 years and still dominate the cultural conversation. That's the privilege of being Nasty C,
mm.
Drake, Kendrick, Cole, or even A. Reese to an extent.
Wait,
But those
man.
Nasty C for 2 years and still that he wasn't operating from the position of an artist who could disappear for 2 years and still dominate the cultural conversation. That's the privilege of being Nasty C, Drake, Kendrick, Cole, or even A. Reese to an extent. But those artists disappear. When those artists disappear, right, people keep talking about them, right? When Shane Eagle disappeared, the culture just moved on. And that matters because music is not only about the quality of what you release, it's about
Yeah, the culture can move on, bro. You know, the culture can move on, but we'll never forget your input. We'll never forget everything that we've done for the culture. And if you're able to, just like Jay-Z, he can live the culture and keep in touch with the culture while being outside, like having some time and, you know, finding his thing, like pecan. You cannot, I don't think, like, okay, the culture can move on and just go on, like move on, you know. But if you're able to keep in touch with the culture, and when you come back, when you finally come back and show us something different, then we'll embrace that, bro.
remaining culturally present, right? This is why I don't call Shane a failure because
Mm,
there were genuine
he's not a failure, bro. He knows why he moves like this. He knows.
opportunities. Let It Flow became gold. Yellow won a summer. Yellow won a summer. A Reese doesn't even have a summer. And I'm not saying this to throw shade at him, but I'm just pointing out how important the summer is.
Oh, shout out to Nasa C. He won. he just won the Samo for Best Hip Hop Award. Shout out, bro.
He toured internationally with Bass during the Milky Way World Tour. He collaborated with international artists. He developed a strong visual identity. He worked with Nike. He created his own label. He built an independent career. These are not small accomplishments, but the
He
question
at
isn't, did
least
Shane Eagle accomplish things? Of course he did. The question is, did he convert those accomplishments into dominance? And the answer is simply no. And this is where the GOAT conversation
but I don't blame him though. I don't blame him. For me, his input on music is good. But okay, maybe considering everything, maybe culture whatsoever, but his input is clear, bro. You know?
has to stop, right? This is where I disagree with people who put Shane Eagle in the absolute top tier of this generation because the greatest conversations can not only be about lyrical ability. If that were the case, half of the greatest rappers in history would be underground rappers no one knows, right? Greatness requires some combination of talent, catalog, longevity, impact, cultural influence, commercial relevance, moments, consistency, legacy. And when you apply that criteria, Shane's case becomes difficult. A. Reese has the cult following, the catalog, and the streaming era dominance. Nasty C has the mainstream success, international reach, certifications, major label experience, and global collaborations. MT has one of the most important breakout records in modern South African hip hop history, major awards, and a catalog that helped define the trap era in South Africa. Shane just has artistry. He has Yellow, he has Dark Moon Flower, he has Green, he has Akira, he has Never Meet Your Heroes. He has an extremely loyal fan base. He has international credibility. He has one of the most interesting creative philosophies in South African rap. But does that automatically make him one of the greatest rappers of this generation? Hell no.
No, really.
For me, I don't know if we can continuously put Shane in the group of the great big rappers of this generation, right? Because when we're talking about the greatest of a generation, we have to judge the whole career, not just the bars, not just the albums, not just the aesthetic, not just the underground respect, the whole thing.
But what if it's only about music, bro? I don't know. I don't know how I can take this. But and I don't know how I can reason, you know? But I don't agree with this, bro. Honestly.
And that's where I draw the line with Shane Eagle. Great artist, absolutely. Elite lyricist, absolutely. Important figure in South African hip hop.
Like there's so many artists that okay, they can pop up, do something and leave. Do something and leave. So okay, maybe I can add Frank Ocean in this topic. But not really, bro.
I think South African hip hop can move on without Shane. Is he one of the most unique artists of his generation? Absolutely. Could he have been bigger with
I think yes, South Africa can move without him, but don't forget his input on the culture, bro. To the culture, bro. Don't forget his input, everything he's done. You know,
without could he have been bigger than he is? Without a question. But is he that guy? No. The rapper who was going to completely own he's supposed to be the rapper who's going to completely own his generation. Reese owns his generation. Nasty owns his generation. MT owns his generation. I can't say the same for Shane Eagle. Blackie owns his generation. Uzi owns his generation. Kill Brady owns his generation. I don't think Shane Eagle does.
keep ready. Nah, bro. Nah. 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 Keep ready. Nah, bro.
And maybe he was never built for that. And that's okay. Because sometimes an artist's greatest contribution isn't becoming the biggest. Sometimes it's showing everyone else that there was another way to do it. And that's probably Shane Eagle's real place in South African hip hop history. Not the king of the generation, not the biggest rapper of his era, but one of the most talented, experimental, and uncompromising artists who showed South African hip hop that you didn't have to follow everyone else's blueprint. And ironically, that may be the most Shane Eagle thing about him. But you guys let me know what you guys think in the comments. Peace.
Brando, I hear you, bro. But your take on some things Nah, I don't agree with them, you know. But I hear you, I get you.